Well, I'm here to testify mostly on Representative Walsh's bill. In my former job, I was the policy director for Rhode Island for Restaurant Opportunity Centers, where we argued for full elimination of the tip minimum wage, a position I still feel ultimately is the direction that we do have to go in. But I do, after speaking to several dozen, well, actually several hundred servers over the past 4 years, realize that an incremental approach starting at 2/3 is probably the wise direction to take. I'm just going to speak briefly about the history and some of the research that we've done through about tipped minimum wage in the country, and hopefully, I know it's a long night and I appreciate that, so if you please bear with me. The history of tipping in this country is not a natural history. It was considered a pretty wide aberration from the democratic practice of our nation. It was seen as a weird European carryover of royalty, mostly manifest following the Civil War. The Restaurant Association itself, or the National Restaurant Association, was organized shortly after the Civil War and argued strongly for a process of paying people or not having employers have to pay people. It was a tool of control for a newly freed African American population and a newly arriving immigrant population. Ultimately, by 1932, there was a minimum wage established for servers. It was the first time, but there was serious exclusions, mostly affecting African American and immigrant servers. The roots of the tip practice of tipping in this country come from slavery. People used to work in the hope that somebody would give them some change and you could earn your freedom and some time with that. This is a weird carryover for that. The second tier system that we have, where one set of workers is valued significantly less than another set, is proven to not be a successful model for building equity in a workplace or a strength in the workplace. Having some workers who are paid as much as as little as 1/4 of what the actual minimum wage is alters the value and alters the power dynamic between employer and server. When we look at wage disparities between men and women, as we descend the economic ladder, we see those disparities decrease until we get to the service personnel. A lot of times the Restaurant Association will offer a number that's upwards of $30,000 a year as the median for or the average for a server. This is based on total restaurant sales and based on total service sales, which includes high-end restaurants and low-end restaurants. And so, for example, if Bill Gates were to move into this neighborhood tomorrow across the street, we would all be, on average, millionaires. The reality is that most tip workers are women, most of them are moms, and most of them make barely $13,000 a year off of their earnings. This externalizes the costs of employment and also externalizes the cost of life. The server is forced literally into a position of subservience to the employer. And in this case, the employer becomes a muddy relationship. Is it the person that hired them to work in the restaurant? Is it? If they're not actually paying them, isn't it the customer? In which case, who are you responsible to? If that customer chooses to